That's right, yeah. So if your ticket was issued in error, you're successful during the tribunal process, the $150 fee that you had to pay to have that heard is non-refundable. You will never see that money back. So you can imagine a $150 ticket, even if it's issued wrongfully, is not going to be corrected going forward.
Adam Soos here for Rebel News, and there have been significant changes towards how traffic and driver offenses are processed in this province. No longer are Albertans permitted to have access to a proper judicial process. No longer will they have their day in court. Instead, a new system has been implemented where you have to pay $150 to challenge a ticket. The ticket is never heard by a judge, and even if you win your challenge, you don't get that $150 back. This is a system which circumvents due judicial process. And with an update, I'm going to be joined by Sarah Miller of JSS Barristers.
Essentially what the government of Alberta has done is moved the traffic court system, which was at the courthouse, over into its own administrative process, and essentially that removes the court's jurisdiction, moves into tribunal process. The tribunal has the right to just either confirm the ticket or deny the ticket. No discretion to do anything else. Definitely a different burden of proof, practically no opportunity to be able to argue for your innocence, no right to trial. So a significant difference compared to our original traffic court, but more concerning, they're talking about doing this for all provincial offenses. So not only will this be traffic tickets, which is pretty significant and impacts almost all Albertans, but it's going to move into all provincial offenses in the future.
So what are some other examples of provincial offenses?
Well, we don't know for sure at this point because the government hasn't really announced the clarity of that, but essentially we're looking at things like probably the Builders Code or maybe occupational health and safety. We're not sure which of the provincial offenses will fall into that. It could be as wide as all of them, any provincial act. Hopefully not. Hopefully at least the ones that have their own tribunal process will continue to do that, but it could be quite far-reaching.
And now I think it's probably reasonable to suggest that the intention behind this is sort of judicial streamlining, opening people up. But for people who think it's not really a big deal, though, I mean, ultimately circumventing your legal rights, even for something as small as a parking ticket or a speeding ticket, is that not sort of undermining a fundamental building block of society?
Yeah, and I mean, look, for speeding tickets, maybe it is less significant for most people, but we're talking about every offense under the Traffic Safety Act. So this is also if your insurance company makes a mistake on your insurance, the automatic withdrawal, some sort of glitch happens there, you're getting significant fines under the Traffic Safety Act. And so it is quite far-reaching. The other thing is that this is significant access to justice issues. So what we're looking at is $50 fines or $150 fines to rectify a ticket that's been entered wrongfully. So that is just, kind of contrary to what we expect from traffic court, what we expect from government regulations. So, I mean, there's a financial burden that they're creating for it. They're also removing right to trial, which is significant, and Albertans shouldn't just take that, as, oh, it's no big deal, it's just a traffic ticket.
And so just for people out there who maybe don't know, if you want to challenge a ticket, depending on the amount, you're paying up to $150. And then even if you win your challenge, it's like the hockey, you challenge the play. If you're wrong, you get a penalty. In this case, you pay the $150. If you're right, that's not getting refunded. Even if your ticket's thrown out, you just had to pay $150 to basically have your voice heard in this province. Is that right?
That's right, yeah. So if your ticket was issued in error, you're successful during the tribunal process, the $150 fee that you had to pay to have that heard is non-refundable. You will never see that money back. So you can imagine a $150 ticket, even if it's issued wrongfully, is not going to be corrected going forward.
And for some people out there, there's also the issue, like you talked about, access to justice. Some people, $150 they don't care about. Other $150 means paying their heating bill or picking between a meal or that, or sometimes even losing a place, not being able to make their rent payment for that month. So how serious is it a concern when people are being restricted from judicial rights based on maybe not having enough money to challenge something like this?
I think this is really significant. Charging people $150 is just another way that the justice system is becoming inaccessible and that we're disenfranchising those who live in poverty.
And finally, how did this seems to have come out of nowhere? Was this under significant review? Was this voted in? How was this implemented, and how did this become seemingly overnight the law of the land?
Yeah, so I think it's just that most people weren't aware of it. It was passed through a bill. The first stage of the bill took place last year, so that was the change regarding impaired driving tickets. So instead of getting a criminal charge under impaired driving, you get all these immediate infractions and charges and impacts on your driver's license and things like that, rather than having due process in a criminal court. Look, there's positives, pros and cons to that, absolutely. Same with this, with the traffic system. Pros and cons. They're trying to address what is a really significant problem in Alberta, which is overburdening the court system. But they've done it in a way that's definitely, in my estimation, kind of wrong. And creating financial barriers to access justice isn't really solving access to justice issues.
We met with Sarah Miller to discuss these troubling changes to the traffic infraction resolution process. In no small part, thanks to her opposition to the new system, the Alberta government has had a surprising common sense reaction to significant public backlash, and they have put a pause on their plans. According to Minister of Transportation Rajan Sani and Solicitor General Sonia Savage, the government will take 90 to 120 additional days to, quote, communicate and educate Albertans about the proposed changes, although many are hopeful that this initial delay may indeed be the beginning of the end for the amended plans.
Sarah Miller of JSS Barristers, as always, a face you know. Thank you for this great update. Really appreciate it. And for everyone out there, we want to thank you so much for tuning in. For Rebel News, I'm Adam Soos. Hey guys, if you want to support independent journalism that doesn't take handouts from the government, one way you can do that is by going to rebelnewsstore.com. There's tons of great shirts there. You can even get the hoodie that I'm wearing right now. Again, rebelnewsstore.com.